Hi, my name is Romke. I'm here with Supranav Dash. We're going to be talking about his photography. Hi, Supranav.
Hi, okay.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really, really well. I wanted to get to know you a little better. I don't know too much about you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Anything at all?
Sure. I completed my BFA last year from SVA, and before that, I was operating my own studio in India, and I was a commercial fashion photographer till 2009.
Cool.
And then I decided that I needed further education, and so I joined SVA.
Fantastic. Cool. Can you tell me something about your childhood? Where did you grow up?
Sure. I'm the only child, and we lived where I was born right outside Calcutta, which is the eastern side of India, and this place called Asansol. It used to be a big railway engineering section for the British as well.
Gotcha.
And my father's father, my grandfather from the father's side, was an engineer who built those tracks during the British period. And my mom's father also worked in the railways. That's where we had these huge British bungalows, and the British left, but we got these bungalows and we used to stay there. And my childhood was almost, I felt like I went to a Catholic school. So maybe I was one of the first members to go to a Catholic school. And
would you say you had a different life than the majority of Indians would have had?
I think, yeah, because all my teachers were Anglo-Indians, that's what we call. They are mostly of Irish descent. The fathers from our school was St. Patrick's High School. They are from Ireland, very strict. We were really disciplined and everything.
Wow.
That was the tough part, but everything else was nice and sweet.
Was it a very British kind of literature that you were reading, or was there a lot of American literature as well?
It's all British.
All British.
All
right.
British.
That's interesting. I had a similar kind of upbringing, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of my schools were British. I did have actually one or two American schools in there, but I understand how that can create kind of a divide. I'm sure it created a divide between your understanding of India and maybe the other people around you's understanding of India. I'm not sure, but...
No, I totally understand. That's
okay.
right, yeah.
Cool. And maybe that was an inspiration to your photography?
It is.
Yeah?
It is.
I want to talk, since we're talking about youth, I want to talk about your Kashmiri portraits, because there's a lot of youths in those photographs. And this is a series of, as I read it from the statement, they're displaced individuals outside Kolkata, which is close to where you grew up.
Right.
Roaming from one state to another every few months. Can you tell me something about them?
Sure. So in 1990, we were kids, and that time insurgents, Muslim insurgents, this is political, but they occupied part of Kashmir, now known as POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Gotcha.
So these people occupied Kashmir, and these portraits that I've been making, these people are a minority. They are called the Kashmiri Hindu Pandits.
Interesting.
So one fine morning they wake up, and then these people come in with full arms and everything, and they say, you have to leave. Either you choose to die or you leave. If you don't leave, you get converted. So many of them got converted to Muslim, but people who did not, they just had say 5 days to leave. They have been living there for generations, we don't know how long.
Yeah.
Wow, so they just had to leave. India government couldn't do anything because it was they were fighting on the border.
Yeah.
So these people, since 1990, have been traveling to every state, and the government could not resettle them back. So every government, every 5 years, would come, and they would say, okay, we'll do something for you, but they couldn't.
Just a bit of historical background here. Before the British occupation, there was a very peaceful integration between Hindus and Muslims in India.
Yes,
is that right?
Totally.
And they, at one point, decided to just put all the Muslims on one side and all the Hindus keep them in India. And this was done by force, and it created incredible amounts of just aggression and violence, and it continues today. So that's why this is so fascinating to me as well. given your upbringing where you were, I'm sure that it strikes a very sensitive nerve.
Yeah.
But tell me about how you came across the subjects.
So last year, 2013 January, I was traveling just outside the city. So there was this huge canal, and it's like the sewerage canal.
Yeah.
And I see these little thatched houses, like thatched camps. And
Yeah.
I just asked someone. They were like, "Oh, the Kashmiris are back." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So.
Wow.
It's been always
Yeah.
like that, so I've been witnessing them for years and years, but I never had this interest to go into and peek into their life. But now that I've taken up the camera, I thought maybe this is the opportunity, and I go in and introduce myself and say hello to them, and then I get to hear their story, and this is where I find this elderly lady who speaks about what's been going on. And as of now, like in 2014, we have this Hindu government in place, the BJP, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is pro-Hindu. So this is their only chance in 2014-15 to get resettled.
Wow.
The moment this government goes away, back to square one.
Wow, that must be hard, especially for all the youngsters. I mean, there's so
Yes,
many
and-
photographs of youngsters. I can imagine what it's like for them.
I visited their camp, and there are like 1,000 people there, and most of them have been told by government officials, do not give interviews, do not get photographs done,
Wow.
nothing, because if you do, you will not get any support from the government. We'll throw you out of the state and all that. So
Wow.
it's like the moment they found out what I'm planning to do with the photographs,
Yeah.
they threw me out.
Yeah.
But before that, I got what I could.
Wow, that's fascinating. Tell me about, let's move on. Tell me about your family and the relationships within your family, and what kind of family you have, maybe, you know, especially in contrast to how you see families in the West.
I would say that my family was pretty dysfunctional.
Okay.
It's very similar to my Western brothers.
Yeah. It's part of modern society.
Yes,
you know?
and it was very unlike my friends in India, because
Okay.
they had this perfect idea of family.
Okay.
Don't know what went inside, but it was perfect.
Right.
Perfect little square thing going on. Father, mother, sister, brother.
Gotcha.
My mom used to be a singer, and my dad was a banker. But since we had this very conservative family, so she was not allowed to like go ahead much with her singing, because
Okay.
she had to stop it and take care of the family.
That's unfortunate.
Yes, and she
Yeah.
raised me till I was 18, and then when we had this discussion, I asked mom if she could start back again.
Yeah.
It was kind of too late, but she moved ahead and she went to Bombay. We are in Calcutta, so Bombay is the western side. She went to Bombay and started singing. She had a very nice voice, so
Wow.
she was old, but she managed to.
Still doing it?
No, she didn't. Yeah.
But I'm sure it was a nice little.
Yes.
nice
Yeah.
experience.
She went and did her own gigs.
That's great.
And then she moved to Dubai, where she set up this
Wow.
business. That's how I got funded for my education and everything.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. You know?
And that was pretty conservative, because as far as we middle class Indians are concerned, if you have to have a happy family life, married life, arranged marriage, so
Yeah.
you got
Right.
to be a engineer or a doctor, else you don't qualify.
Right.
So I used to paint early, but then it was not good enough. Then I had.
I understand
Yeah.
the friction there. Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
So
Gotcha. I can totally see now where your inspiration came from for your New Mothers series. You know, I think maybe it's a Western trope to see new mothers who have just given birth to be very happy, and like if they have any kind of disappointment, that's, you know, there's something wrong with them, you know.
Right.
But in your photographs, the new mothers, they look kind of I don't know, afraid, or not afraid, but more kind of still, or you know, I don't really know how to describe it. Can you introduce this series for us and your thinking?
So this time when I was in my uncle's place, and this place is called Durgapur, and then I saw this. It was just before the elections, and I see this young girl who's being carted away in a little makeshift cart to the hospital. She was coming from some suburb outside this subdivisional town. So this is the only hospital maybe in 30 kilometers or so. So she was almost in labor pain, and they were rushing her, and then I got into it, and then that's the first time I really felt that I needed to do something. In India, like whenever I sought to get permission for photographing the maternity ward, it was absolutely impossible because men are not like allowed in the maternity wards in government hospitals in India.
Okay.
So, and then they were also afraid because that year, like we were having the elections, and after that, like how you must understand, like India, the eastern side of India, like Calcutta, West Bengal, where I come from, it has been a communist state for the last 34 years.
Interesting.
It's a big deal because the entire other part of the country, apart from another state which is Kerala, where everyone goes for their backwater experience, that was communist too.
Gotcha.
The rest of it was nationalist, or you could say Congress or other parties. So it was pretty
interesting,
segregated.
Yeah.
So very old beliefs and very strict things that cannot be overcome. But I was lucky I got access to that, and I photographed. So there was an official always standing next to me, checking off what I was shooting. I was lucky that I was shooting digital, so I could get approved.
I can imagine.
So you will see all my photographs are just still portraits.
Yes.
There is no background.
They're kind of restrained, you know.
Restrained.
Yeah. You know, it seems like there's a lot of regulation in terms of social behaviors. You know, men aren't allowed in maternity wards. You know, what is femininity like in India?
I mean, these days, girls are doing almost everything, or women are doing almost everything that women could. It's still a patriarchal society, as we always been taught to think that women are like second, how do you say it? Second citizens, or no?
I would say something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But our friends who we grew up with, they are all working, and our generations, like the 80s generation, I guess, they're doing good. Like,
that's fantastic.
We have broken free from our parents' beliefs, where they confined women, and women were raised to cook, raise babies, and take care of their husbands.
Speaking of which, let's talk about your stage tableaus, because I think that plays a big part in that, you know, the confinement of women. And you can see that in the expression of their faces. I wonder if there's more photographs that I haven't seen, but that the expressions that I've seen on those photographs, they feel confined. Am I right?
Yeah, you are, and that's what I wanted to address, because every now and then when you open up newspapers and you look at media, you see these atrocities that's happening to women, and how so many things that happen, but they don't get mentioned in the media. Like, it's also personal experience where one of my girlfriends, like not a friend of mine, got married to someone who turned out to be gay, and her life is wasted because she cannot come back from the relationship, from the marriage. So she got pregnant, and she was married to this man, but this man was a complete gay. So she had to stay stuck in this relationship and raise a baby.
That's so fascinating.
That prompted me to create that whole thing. But then later on I realized like I could expand on that and take on the other tropes or other cues that are happening in the society.
Cool. Can you elaborate on those?
I mean, now almost every time, we don't discuss it much, but it's happening. Too many women are getting raped in India. It's a big deal.
I've been reading about it. It seems to be coming into Western press a lot more these days.
Yes,
trickling in.
Yes, it is, and not that. We were taught to respect women.
Right.
And we do respect women. It has nothing to do with
Definitely.
that.
This is more to do with sort of social regulation and policing and and the culture around that.
And suddenly, after Facebook and Bollywood movies have become more aggressive, and they are more like showing more sexuality. And these men who have no outlet for that, we are still not allowed to openly mix with women. So if you have to mix with a woman, you have to get married. So if you're not married, you are blocked in a certain way. So all this feed that you're taking in from the movies and your social media, the outlet is you.
Can you tell me more about what you've been seeing in the evolution of Bollywood culture? Has there been kind of a progression of certain stereotypes, or kind of a change in the winds at all in sort of the messages that might be kind of...
It's definitely got more contemporary. Bollywood is looking into Hollywood. Like, they have broken free kind of from their stereotypical Bollywood melodramatic scenarios and love scenarios where initially, not too far back, 20 years back, when there was not a kissing scene, like whenever a man would kiss a woman, it would jump cut, and there would be like two flowers moving each other.
That's so fascinating.
That was how we suggested kissing.
Wow.
And now we have like these open, semi-erotic imagery and visuals. That's really pushing people to the edge.
Oh, I can imagine.
And they don't have an outlet. So this is what.
I mean, for those who don't know, Bollywood is far larger than Hollywood, and by many measures. I remember watching a lot of Bollywood films in my teenage years and just admiring them, especially some of the comedies were really, really great. And they have a particular system to them. I mean, American films just as much have their own systems that they rarely break. But it was so fascinating to see, and I just, and obviously one of the most glaring differences about Bollywood versus the rest of, film cultures is the dance scenes, and it's an easy thing to talk about, but I think it's a really interesting thing in terms of just a sort of social harmony. But it's interesting that you have these films with so much social harmony, but still have, this strange, hierarchy of some kind, and I don't know. But anyway, that's not something I'm ready to talk about. I don't know nearly enough about Bollywood. But what I would like to talk about is, how Indian culture might be like every other culture that's modernizing, progressing towards individuality,
right? And
what that might be doing to things outside of culture, like what it's doing to families, what it's doing to just academic settings, any number of things. I'm sure that this has many ripple effects.
Yeah, previously we would have a lot of films related to like family, and where it would encourage having big families and get-togethers and celebrating festivals and cultures intermingling and everything. Yeah. But now it's more or less, it's like the nucleus thing going on. So if you see into movies, you'll see that it's always like how we have it here, Hollywood movies. It's taking a sole character and exploring his life, but it's like
having
very limited.
Different types. Yes. Okay, interesting.
And mostly movies are being made about the city life, how this kid goes and conquers the city life, or how he comes up and owns up that he is gay, and gay flicks are in these days. People are enjoying it.